Okay, so welcome again. We're less than a week before things are supposed to begin, and I don't know how many of you have met Lauren before, but Lauren Barker is Executive Director of CCYP. She's joining us this morning. So Lauren, you already know Polly. Lauren, please meet Sue Johnson. Lauren, do you know Peggy?
Peggy, I don't know Peggy, no.
Okay. You're muted there, Miss Peggy. And Trish Dune. These are the 5 people we're starting with. Jean Sorbo, who I think you may have met, is an alternate who will help out if we can start to grow. But he's right now very busy with, he's doing work with Amica Insurance, so that's probably keeping him very busy. So
that's where I know Jean's name. Okay, yeah. He and I have had a coffee meeting actually. So yeah.
So any updates from people that they want to share before we get going? Life is good?
Life is good.
Life is good.
I'll say, Maggie, I'm here to say hello and meet everybody, and thank you all for giving your time, donating your time to support this new program that Maggie has very generously offered to facilitate. And I'm really, really excited about this. I think that it's going to be a great opportunity to connect our community at CCYP with some much needed support during this time. So thank you all so much for giving your time and expertise.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I can't stay for the whole time, Maggie. I don't want to, eavesdrop and take over here. So I'll stay for the first few minutes and just kind of, I can answer questions or, chime in where needed, but I'll have to jump off here in a few.
Okay.
Maggie, can I ask Lauren a question?
Yes.
So as your board, I'm assuming the executive board at least discussed this idea and agreed to move forward. What were some of the benefits that people saw, and what do you think the major issues are that are going to come up in laser coaching?
So I've discussed the program at length. We actually just had a board meeting this morning that I just came off of. And the executive committee met a little over a week ago when Maggie and I first started. I guess it was about 2 weeks ago when we started talking about the concept. The main feedback, I think they're in agreement that it's a great benefit to both CCYP members and non-members at this time to just have access to one-to-one resource, someone who has professional expertise in coaching people through difficult issues. I think from some of the outreach and data collection that we've been doing, we have a survey going on right now for COVID-19 related needs for young workers. 25 to 44 age range is kind of where those responses are concentrating, about 90% of them. And their big issue right now, a lot of people are bringing up mental health, the need to talk to someone about what comes next for them, juggling work and home responsibilities is a major issue that people are encountering, and just how to find balance in a new routine when everything's been upended. There were a lot of concerns in that survey expressed about productivity, being able to be productive at work while also navigating, children being home from school or caregiving for other family members that may have lost access to professional caregivers. In the middle is what I'm hearing. They're just in the middle of everything. And while some groups may be experiencing one or two of these impacts, it seems like this age group is kind of getting hit with it all at once. That's my observation. So I think, you know, the challenge too becomes that access to coaching or mental health services is pretty limited in the first place on the Cape, particularly for young people and families. I think that. So you have kind of this perfect storm of disproportionate impact with a disproportionate lack of access to resources. And that's really what I'm seeing is just a real critical need for people supported. And if we can provide that in some way, I think that whether it's on a personal, professional, or both capacity, it's going to just sort of strengthen that framework that allows people to feel that they can actually stay here. Because when you feel supported, you're more likely to stick it out through the hard times, versus if you feel like nobody's looking out for you, well, you know, maybe go somewhere where it's easier. So that's I think the short-term benefits, and then there's the longer-term ones as well. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect, and it fits with what happened last night at the Cape Cod Women's Association meeting. I don't know if anybody on the call was there, but there was about 35, 40 women online, and when we split into our chat rooms, my chat room, the young woman in her mid-30s with a 9-year-old at home completely broke down on the call. I mean, for our 20 minutes, we focused on how can we help you. It was kind of a classic example of all those things you just said.
Yeah.
You know, child at home, marriage problems, her balance is out of a routine, you know, all of that. So,
yeah, and I think all the support systems and sort of, you know, sources of support that people did have really broken down under this to a point where, you know, even access to grandparents or, you know, family that might have helped has been removed from the equation. And so, and I think the reality is that most young people, whether they have families or not, they were barely getting by and just kind of cobbling it together already before all this happened.
mm-hmm.
Really, you know, I think the really concerning part for me in some ways is the silence that we're getting. Like, I will, the amount of responses to the survey, about 130. The last time we did a needs survey, we got like 400. And so I'm sort of wondering, yeah, and 130 is good. I mean, that's a great response rate, but I also am concerned in a way because I feel like we haven't seen engagement go down on social media, but we're also not seeing people in those traditional settings like an event where I might have a casual conversation with somebody and they express that they're struggling with something, and then I can connect them with somebody. And that happens a lot. I feel like that is one of the main ways is just this ad hoc connection and resource facilitation that we do, where whether it's connecting people with other people or people with resources. That's one of the key roles that I've seen emerge for CCYP as a really important, critical thing. And if we don't have those, you know, ad hoc sort of casual run-ins with people to be able to understand what they're going through, you know, they're kind of suffering alone through things. I have no idea what's going on in some cases. And so I have been reaching out, you know, to our more active members and talking with, you know, people that I see a lot at events and, you know, checking in with them. And I think people are just, you know, everyone's kind of going through their own challenges. And so this, I think, would be a really thing that's just, not out there currently.
I think part of it is allowing a space for these people to share their experience. I had the exact same experience yesterday, Peggy, with a group that I was working with, and a young mother that often brings her 1.5-year-old to the meetings because she has no other options. And she just completely broke down about lack of support, not being able to get out, no resources available. Very similar to what you just described. So, to have access through CCYP to this particular age group, I think we can make a difference, coaches. I really think we have a good opportunity to make a difference for these folks.
Yeah, I'll tag on to Peggy's earlier question of what might we expect. One of the things that I'm seeing with my clients that are kind of in this age range is not only do they have the pressures at home and everything that they're trying to keep up with, but they might have supervisors, leaders, people who are not in that same situation, and they have no idea how hard it is to be the working mom, the teaching mom, all of that. And so there are a lot of supervisors and people in leadership positions who that's a major blind spot for them and they're just continuing to have the same level of expectation from their employees saying, hey, you picked up your computer and you went home, now you're working from home, and that's kind of the end of their scope of understanding.
Yeah.
And they don't realize how much it takes to keep, even especially the little tiny ones, anywhere up to where they can pour themselves a glass of milk or a bowl of cereal, how much it takes for parents, whether you're male or female, doesn't really matter. But when all of those, daycare, grandparents, all those things are gone, how much there is. So that disconnect has been really coming up a lot. As a matter of fact, I just was on with the New Hampshire Tech Alliance and we were doing there's a new tool. I don't know if you guys have anybody seen the Remo tool? It's really cool, Lauren. I think you would love it. It's a great networking tool. It's an online platform. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, please.
But what they did was I ended up being at a table where all the working moms came in and said, help us. How do we communicate with our leadership about how, what we're trying to do in terms of everything plus our jobs?
I think it's really hard to communicate the reality of that. I think that, even to the teachers and sort of, my kids are older. I have a almost 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're pretty independent, but they still need help getting onto meetings, and they have meetings of my meetings, and they conflict with each other, and the 7-year-old she can get on there, but she may not remember the time. We've been setting timers. Yesterday she missed another meeting because I had a recorded video conference that I had to do, and I could not be interrupted and step away. My husband's going to work, so he's essential staff, works for the county in the water lab. So I think, I'm not even in the position that many of these young parents are, so little, but still all the competing demands on top of, the work and just normal parenting demands are already really tough. But I think adding the school expectations on top of it, and I think often there's not a good understanding of, well, why would you miss a meeting? You're just sitting at home, and it's for this specific time, and you knew about it last night. I told you 12 hours ago it's gonna happen. It's like, well, there's a lot of other stuff going on, and I think that's the piece that it's hard to explain. You're not just sitting at home doing nothing, watching the clock and the calendar. There's a lot that goes on, and the more kids in the mix or caregiving responsibilities, because I don't want to forget, one of the things we're hearing a lot about is maybe they have elderly parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or someone that they've now had to take on caregiving responsibilities for. My husband's teacher just had to resign earlier, in her year early, because her mother's caregiver is not able to come to the house anymore. So now she's the primary caregiver for her mother. And, you know, she's in her 50s, but still it's, you know, it's affecting, and having young kids on top of that, and you're really in a bad spot. So yeah, and I think beyond the parents and caregivers, there's also this other population of you know, younger people who may not be married or have kids, or maybe that we even are seeing a lot more college students, I think, back here now that the year's ended, and they may not even go back in the fall in some cases. You know, what are the needs there? And I think that's been a lot harder to pinpoint because, you know, especially in the restaurant industry, many of them have lost work, don't know when they're gonna be able to go back. So yeah, that's definitely an issue as well.
So any more questions for Lauren? Going once, going twice. Could you just briefly share how you're going to promote and market the program?
Sure. So we are working on an email blast that's going to go out to our newsletter subscribers. We have about 3,500 on that list, and we get a pretty good open rate. So not everybody that we send it to sees it, but it's a good, like 30% of that probably are going to open it up and look at it and interact, which is very good for that email marketing. And then we'll do it through our social media channels. We use Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and combined we probably have about 9,000 in that social media audience. So it'll go out to a pretty wide group. We'll promote it, you know, repeatedly and get the word out. And, you know, I'm open to other ideas too. If we want to maybe just do a quick video to introduce people to you all as the coaches, and so they can see your faces. I mean, I'm open to that. I think that there's options for how to do it. The other thing that we are looking at is maybe doing a press release to get some news coverage of it, because if the Times or the Cape Cod or one of our other local papers picks it up, we do see traction from that typically with our programs and events.
So
Lauren,
when,
sorry.
go Polly.
So when you put the information out, are you going to include some kind of explanation about what the difference is between coaching and counseling?
We are defining laser coaching, but we haven't tackled that. So I think that is definitely something that I'm interested to hear, you know, if you have an easy, because I think one of the other things that we may look at doing is like a frequently asked questions of some kind, where, you know, what is it? How does it work? You know,
Sure.
Put it down for people in a quick way where they don't have to search around for the information.
I know that I'm an ICF member, and I know there are others, and I might be able to. I think we can send you maybe some links to some short videos that people can watch of the, like, what is coaching, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Just because I think it can be confusing for people to. They sometimes think
great.
counseling is the same as coaching, and it's really not.
Yep, that would be wonderful. And if there are other things that you feel like we need to clarify around, you know, I think one of the biggest things for me is just, you know, being clear about the expectations on the front end of what this is and what it isn't, and, you know, who it's for, and making sure that we're, you know, being clear about it, being confidential. And I think one of the things that we're doing is, you know, promoting this really heavily to our membership. But there's certainly not a requirement that people are members to participate in it, especially if they feel concerned about participating through a membership that might belong to their employer. So that, or if they've lost their membership because they've lost their employment. So I think, you know, the goal here will be to be very flexible with that, just so that people who need the support get it.
That's great.
Okay, so my question was going to be, what's your target date to start publishing it?
So we are working on the e-blast and should have a draft ready by Friday, and it would go out hopefully first thing next week, Monday or Tuesday, for the e-blast announcement, and then the social media would follow that. So early to mid next week. And one of the things that Maggie and I have been talking about is a pilot group, and I did plug that to our board this morning in our meeting. So I've told them that they'll be getting information on how to participate in the program as sort of a test run to reach out and take part in the service, but it wouldn't be released to the public yet at that point. Over the next few days, potentially. But it would all depend on how ready you all are to do that, because we're very flexible, and if we need to push this back a week, we can, and Maggie and I have talked about that too.
So we'll talk more about that as a group today, especially now that we have a date as to when the marketing is going to start. And I'll follow up with you on that.
Great.
I'm going to add here, I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay, that I'm going to ask the Cape Women's Coalition Board if we can promote it through our organization, so that there's another 700-800 people in email and another 11 to 1,200 on Facebook, because we only use Facebook for that organization. So if you have other organizations that we might be able to do this with, we can talk about that also. So on that, unless there's something else for Lauren, you're welcome to stay, but.
Well, my only concern is, oh, wow, when you just gave those numbers, I started to think, wow, what if hundreds of people try to take advantage of this service? Like, I wasn't expecting it to be advertised, say, through the Cape Women's Coalition, for example, to another 700 people. I thought this was a service for CCYP. So that's all I'm putting out there, is that I would worry a little bit about this, because there is such a big need. How would we distinguish? What if 30 people who are not young professionals or CCYP members wanted laser coaching? Are we just opening it up and saying anybody can get laser coaching?
I think the priority, we can definitely say that this is a service primarily for CCYP members, but that if there's a need, that we would entertain others. I think, seeing kind of how the first week goes is going to tell us a lot. There's so much eating information out there right now that I'm hesitant to say that I think it would be, even with those large numbers of where it's being shared. I mean, I would be really surprised if you got 100 people. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that you'll get the people who really need it most, who are most willing to ask for help initially. So it's going to be this sort of self-selection bias that's happening, where it's people who would already be asking for help. And then you might start to see, as people learn more about it, a trickle in of additional people. But we can definitely monitor it and see how the first few days go. And if it feels like it's too open, we can revisit that. Or if you want to revisit it now, we can. I mean, what are your thoughts, Maggie? Do you think it's going to end up being?
Well, again, when we're in such an unknown world, and right now we are using a lot of tools we use from what we call our old world. And so you just being able to have this conversation and having different perspectives, what Peggy and I have known each other a long time.
Okay. That's why I was able to say, whoa, wait a minute, Cape Women's Coalition.
Because I do tend to get into that real big picture. And so it's good that, again, so the others of you who know me somewhat or don't know me at all, just blurt it out, because I throw things out there to see, does it make sense? Because we're the five of us, we're in this right now together. Your part, what you're willing to give on something we have no idea. So I would say, when Lauren was talking about the numbers, I was like, where am I going to get the rest of the coaches? because we as coaches see, at least I do, that people will want to take advantage of it. We'll know in the first couple of days, I think, how well this is received, and we'll regroup. And if need be, I'll call a meeting of this group to see what we do. And again, we don't know right now. So I say we start with CCYP group, put it out there for the week and see what happens, and then go from there.
I think that makes sense.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Does sound good.
Easier to scale it up than scale it back.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So
Did I just hear you say start with the CCYP group before you do a major press release? Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. And then we can see that can be a tool in our back pocket if for some reason the response is not big. I mean, that, that's equally as possible, is that people are just overwhelmed with an input of information right now and just don't see it or know that it's there. And then we can use that press release and maybe partner network outreach as another way to get the word out.
Yeah, again, we don't know. I mean, for all you could be putting it out on Monday, and Cape Cod Times will be calling you on Tuesday because everybody's looking for what different organizations are doing. Because an organization I'm with, we're doing our first virtual event, and within the first 4 hours, we had over 20 people sign up. That normally that 20 would take almost 2 weeks for them to sign up. So there is a hunger for information now. So we'll see.
There's another way, Lauren, that we can certainly talk about is how to get information out to people. Just, if we did like sort of group coaching, a couple of virtual group coaching sessions where if we pick a topic, and this week's topic is going to be managing virtual teams, and this week's topic is going to be, DISC personality or profiles in the time of COVID, those kinds of things that then bring people in and then can say, we could do some group coaching in that way that might be helpful for them and serve kind of a mass number of people and get them introduced to what coaching is if we end up seeing sort of a slowdown. So I think there's a couple of different ways that we can ramp up or, sort of govern the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, our minds were in the same, because I already wrote that down, saying, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, we can entertain a group coaching session for some of the issues that, when we get together in 2 weeks, what are some of the issues people are bringing up?
Yeah.
Because what Peggy has shared with me about the Cape Cod Women's Association, it appears that what you identified earlier on, Lauren, was that we're missing this interaction to just talk that existed before.
Yeah.
And maybe it's simply having a group session where there is a coach there to help when that person does lose it, so to speak. So.
Yeah, and I think we can also monitor, and I'm grateful, Maggie, that you've put in some kind of controls and evaluation strategies with this whole effort, because it's going to allow us to be responsive more in real time, I guess, to what the major issues are that are coming up, where, we're doing a new podcast series where we're doing interviews with different subject matter experts. If there's an issue that keeps coming up, we can do something around it education-wise that goes out to a wider group, so that even if they aren't going to self-select and try to take advantage of this service, that we are still getting that information out there in some way.
Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts to be shared with Lauren? Okay, like I said, Lauren, you're willing to stay, but I promised I'd do my best to keep it within an hour. I'm sorry for that oops earlier.
Yeah. No worries. I've got to go get kids lunch before my next meeting. So I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for doing this. And,
okay, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
Maggie has my contact information, so please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm here to help. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Lauren.
Bye.
Okay. Right, onward, upward, whatever. So I wanted to start with, as far as update goes, the other update was for those that had the opportunity to schedule an appointment and see how Calendly works. That's a mouthful. Any questions?
Just the cancellations that came up.
Yeah, cancellations will come because I didn't purchase it, and I won't until we get a better feel for it. At this point, the cancellations will come right to me, so I will let you know immediately if there's a cancellation.
Okay.
And if they've rescheduled, that will also come to me because I will have to reschedule them with somebody. Again, how this will work, time will tell, because it will come into me. I will have set up a list of in order so that it rotates, so each of you have someone, and then it all comes through that central. I don't know if you have endeavored to look at the entire calendar, but I've set up, there's an entire calendar of where the appointments will go, and I'll color code you. I'll send you this week with what color you have so you can see which one is your appointment on the calendar. So please, if you haven't had a chance to play with the shared calendar, do so.
Okay.
So that's the first hurdle. How will that work?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Calendly is syncing with my Google Calendar also. So I need to spend a little time on figuring out how I did that, but I'm happy to have that happen.
Okay. Polly, can you add, I'm going to be in touch with you. I still don't feel I know enough of it to ask intelligent questions, so just give me a little time. But is there anything you can add from your experience with Calendarly?
No.
Okay.
Not at the moment. I think, it is pretty user friendly. What I like about it is that, there is a certain amount of automation that you can. So for example, when a client schedules with me, then it will go onto their calendar and then they'll get a reminder and that kind of thing from Calendly. So there's some steps of that is automated. The tricky part, and I almost, if we're gonna keep going with this, I almost think maybe each one of us should have our own Calendly, and then that's published somewhere so that people can schedule directly with us. But that's down the road. Forget I said that.
That's okay. I mean, I know what it's like to be up there. So we'll, again, and please, if something really is getting to you, like as Pluto, and I don't know if you know about Pluto, the talking schnauzer, and if something's really bothering you, give me a call right away so we can work on it, because as I said, this plane is moving as we're on it.
Maggie, I'm sorry. Yeah. I did review the last session that I missed, but I haven't gone on I clicked on it, so I saw it, but I didn't do any playing around on it. And I was just questioning, it says within 24 hours of receiving the email from you, the coach will reach out to the client, confirming the appointment and setting up the session via phone or video. So I'm reaching out to the person, and I'm going to say I only really want to do phone because I don't want to be, I don't want to spend the extra time setting up video for just 30 minutes, and I don't want to be tied to my spot, as opposed to a lot of times I'm out and about, and that way I can just make a call or they get. And should we always have them call us, meaning we give them our phone number? Or, because that's how I work with my clients now. Mm-hmm. And that way I'm not responsible for tracking them down. They track me down. Does anyone else have any thoughts about those logistics? Or do you care that we'll just do it all separately ourselves?
Okay, before you start in, just let me throw in the thought process, and then, because again, most important is that it's authentically coming from you with some foundation that is the CCYP program. Because this is one-offs, this is different than somebody, in my opinion, in the way I looked at it, that this is different than someone reaching out, wanting a coach to do 2 or 3, or doing a complimentary session and then going from there. These are
Yeah.
one-offs. So that there's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more on the coach, on us to do. So that we reach out to them with an email. If you want, at that point, if you say, look, I want you to call me, that's fine. But the initial email has got to come from you to them. After that, how you want to handle it, again, it's got to be where you feel comfortable reaching out to them. Anybody else have comments or thoughts on that? Trish, I'm sorry to have cut you off.
No, basically what you just said, so I'm good.
So I will, first off, they have to wait 48 hours to book an appointment. So if they get in today, Wednesday, they won't be able to book something until beginning Monday because there's nothing set up for the weekends. So as soon as they book it, I get it and I will be at minimum looking at it every morning first thing. So from the previous day, I will be getting to you by 9 o'clock in the morning, God willing, and the creek don't rise, who you have. And so you will know the next day, which gives you the balance of the day if they book something 48 hours later. So if they do that, yes, you've got a shorter window, but if they book it out 3 or 4 more days, you'll have more time. Does that help? Okay.
Sure. And if for some reason they've booked a time that we can't do, I'm sorry, what's the process there?
You'll need to get back to
You'll
me.
just
Need to get back.
Set up a different time
Yes.
with them?
If you're unable to take the rotation, then I'll go to the next person in rotation. If between the days and times you gave me are what I'm, again, this is where logistics is going to be interesting over the first few days and how I do this. So somebody books a time and it's within your available time and you're the next in rotation. I will send you an email introducing you to the person. So let's listen to this. So if you then have booked that time because you bluntly got a paying client or something else, then
Maggie, let's make it easier on you. If you send me someone, I'm committed to coaching that person sometime within the next, 3 to 4 days. But if they pick a time that for some reason I had to throw another meeting on, why don't I just reschedule with them?
How does everybody else feel about that process?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're kind of getting in a circular rescheduling through you, and that you'll end up losing your mind.
Yeah, it's bad enough when there's 2 people involved in rescheduling.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of Calendly is being able to look and see what, having the client be able to look and see what's available on Calendly. And that's kind of where my brain was going when I said before it might be better for us to each have our own, but that's down the road if this takes root.
Oh, when this takes root.
Yeah, when this takes root.
All right, so if we're all in agreement for now, is that once you're booked with a client, you own the client.
Yeah,
I think that makes more sense.
Okay, you can go, the client can go in and out of Calendarly because right now, Monday to Friday, I have booked 8 a.m. through 6 p.m. every half hour. So because that will give them the opportunity, and then I plug it into what you've given me for availability. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe I've got to change it. Maybe I've actually got to output the money. That'll be my donation to CCYP. So I can, because there is this aspect of Calendarly that has multiple users, which may be the hybrid between what you're talking about, Polly.
Yeah, that might be.
Okay. And we may do that sooner versus than later. I'm going to make changes as quickly as I can to make it easy on all of us. And as you can all see, Peggy and there's another friend called Linda who do that. They pull me down and say, look, I'm a firstborn Catholic girl. I take on too much. So thank you for that. So again, as we're running out of time here, not running out of time, but I want to keep your time. Coaching agreements. Lauren's going over the draft of the coaching agreement, and basically all that is to be sure that we're all in agreement that is laser coaching, that it is pro bono, that it is confidential, and then it's the standard legal that you can read, and if you have a problem with it, please let me know, but that she's asking all of us to sign as giving these coaching services. I call it standard. Nothing in it caught me as being something to worry about, but again, that's only one set of eyes, so be sure to let me know. I was hoping to get those to you today, but I will get them to you as soon as Lauren gets them to me. Practice sessions, well, now we know practice sessions are going to be starting later than originally thought. So on that, I guess my question to you guys is, should we move the start date to back a week to 5/25? I see one shaking head.
Yeah, it seems
Yes.
to make sense.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to, right? So
I will go into Calendarly will still be there, so the practices, but the official start will be, let's move it back to 5/25.
Okay.
So that will take us into the first week of July.
Mhm.
Calendarly process we've talked about.
5/25 is Memorial Day.
Okay, so
Oh,
make
wow.
it 5/26.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who knows what Memorial Day is going to be like this year? We talked cancellation and reschedule process. I liked Lauren's idea of some sort of introduction, video or Zoom introduction. That's as far as I've thought about it, but how do you feel about presenting ourselves to the group in some fashion like this?
that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk with Lauren. If you've got any ideas and want to talk offline, one-on-one, and some ideas on how to do it quickly, just some short thing. But in the meantime, if you could, pictures and bios so that there can be something ready for them that talks a little bit about each of us, and forward that to me at your convenience. And the only thing I have left is that at the end of each session, the way Calendarly works, I cannot put in the response about the survey to automatically click the link. It won't let me do that, but I will then set up through MailChimp, Monkey Survey, whatever it's called.
Survey Monkey.
Survey Monkey. With Lauren, that it will be set to automatically go out to both you guys and the client.
Perfect.
Within an hour. And the biggest thing I'm looking at is, was it meaningful for you, really? And later on is to share the topic that the person said that they were coming to talk to you about and what you ended up talking with them about. I'm just personally curious as how close are those going to be.
Mhm.
So I'll let you know more about that as that gets finalized. That's right now hanging out here. That for me is it. It's more, how comfortable do you feel with the way the process has been put together, the way you've been introduced to it? We won't know till we get started.
That's what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. My only challenge is, Maggie, I'm not able to access that calendar. I don't know if it's because you're sending me the calendar from your wholeliving.net, right? And is everybody else able to access that calendar?
Yes.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me just see if I've sent you. I might not have sent you a invite because,
You did send me an invite, and when I click on it, it takes me to a Microsoft 365 something else thing that I don't use. I use Google Calendar.
okay, all right, because
So
that's me, an Office 365 calendar.
365. Okay.
All right, so let me, I might just bite the bullet and make it easy for all of us and pay for 3 months or 2 months of Calendarly just to make it easier. So let me look into that.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Sue, any questions, concerns, comments?
Well, I just have a statement. I think that the documentation you sent is really helpful. And I was reviewing it before our meeting today to be sure I was ready for us. But I think most of the material is there as we need it. And this session has helped me to be more comfortable with where we're going. So I don't really have any questions except thanks.
Trish?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Maggie. I really appreciate your putting this together.
Peggy?
Just who am I supposed to practice with?
What's going to happen is that Lauren's talked to the staff and to the board of directors, and they're going to
Oh, they're going to practice
that.
Okay.
And I said I told them these are official laser coaching sessions. It's not just coming in and say, hi, Peggy, it's nice to meet you. It's if they have a topic they want to talk about.
Okay. I missed that point. Okay, great. Otherwise, I'm great. I'm good. Thank you very much for doing it, and look forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yes, I am too. Polly, the information that you sent from ICF New England was great. Who can I talk to at ICF New England to bogart it? So I'm thinking that the preparation for your 30-minute laser coaching session is something that when you send to the client, you can send them that sheet of paper and ahead of time? Or does that mean?
That one thing there was one document that was in there that was intended to be what Sun Life was sending out to their employees before. And it's Sue Clancy is the one who has been emailing with me about the program for ICFNE. And the email that I've been emailing with is board, I think it's board sec at ICFNE.
When you find it, would you forward it to me, and I will ask them if there's any copyright issues, because again, maybe when I send to you and the client, I attach that preparation right then and there. Attach that document. I just want to change it around to say CCYP versus CCYP and ICF New England.
Yeah. Yep.
I say it again here. I'm more interested in professionally trained coaches than necessarily ICF. For those of you that know me know how I feel about ICF New England, and yes, I'm going to continue to reach out to them and see if we can get more Cape Cod coaches. Mm-hmm. And on a premise we get 100 people, I'll just reach out to ICF New England and sure I'll be able to get people. But right now looking to give Cape Cod coaches an opportunity. That's the last I've got, except to say again, thank you to Jean, thank you. And I'm really looking forward to this. I think I got a good feeling about it for a whole hell of a bad set of reasons, but good thing about it. So.
Great. Well, thanks for everything you're doing to get it organized, Maggie. We really appreciate it.
Now our next meeting will be in 2 weeks, so there won't be one next week. Okay. But if there's a reason for all of us to get together, please let me know or I will let you know.
Okay.
Are you holding this same time for the meeting?
Yes, every 2 weeks. So it'll be through the program. So it will be 2 weeks through the program. So there'll be another 2 or 3 more sessions after this.
Okie dokie.
But no, the goal is that once this 6 weeks is up, it's going to be a continuation and an addition of, and I'm going to say, paid programs. That I know that Lauren, that's what Lauren, we're going to look at, is to, if we start some group coaching stuff or start giving programs where you facilitate, I'm going to reach out and find funds to do it, because we all know what it's like for the pro bono that we do. So,
Mhm.
We do.
all right. Okay.
Plenty of it.
Okay, excellent.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right, thank you.
We'll
Thanks,
see
Have a good
everybody.
day, everybody.
You too. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.